it's not competitive. It's too much for the performance that you're getting. And while there are some other nice things about the Steam Machine, most people are not going to care. Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage. We're going to talk about how the Steam Machine and the Steam Deck are not really that competitive anymore. And I know there's some caveats. I know they're not exactly the same. We're also talking about Steam OS a little bit versus Windows, but just looking at the hardware here first, the price is what it is. And it is expensive. It is supposedly higher than what Steam was actually wanting. They were shooting for more like $750, which would have been a lot more palatable. But $1,050 for no controller is expensive, especially for only 512 gigabytes. But I think, too, it just shows how much AI and data centers are costing everybody. The places that you can actually get the Steam Machine if you're interested are just the same as the Steam Deck. US, Canada, UK, European Union, and Australia. So those are, too, also the richest countries in the world. So that kind of makes sense. Because Steam hardware is kind of niche. But the thing that I thought was interesting was from Inside Games, and we'll just show a quick little clip here.
$1,169, but important to note, some of these components are going to outclass the Steam Machine by quite a bit.
Yeah, that's right. So that 9060, I think that's that Radeon RX 9060 is a really good video card, and it's much better than the 7600M or the RX 7600M that Steam Machine has. So you really are the extra $100 you pay on top of this form factor for the tiny little mini PC that you built yourself, like Lawrence said, which by the way is not easy to do, especially a mini, is going to be much faster than a Steam Machine. But you basically built a Steam Machine. It's just it took a lot of work and you had to do a lot of shopping.
So it is possible. But yeah, the thing here is that, the performance that we're getting with some of the benchmarks that we actually hit that I showed in my previous vid are overly not good with some of this. And definitely the Steam Machine is going to need to be able to have at least FSR 3 to just stay performantly competitive. But they are working on also getting FSR 4, which will definitely be a good boost. But as of right now, it's not necessarily a good look when the PlayStation 5 outperforms on some games.
Let's kick off with Black Myth Wukong. It's a good start because it's not a particularly great PS5 port, so it should favour Steam Machine. The widest delta sees the PS5 running 17 to 18% ahead of Steam Machine, while other areas can see a smaller lead for the Valve machine over PS5, while elsewhere we're looking at absolute parity. It's fascinating to see it actually. On average, it's a 3% lead for PlayStation 5, but this doesn't reflect the reality that on a moment-by-moment basis, it's much more variable. Next up, the classic Alan Wake 2 Chapter 2 stress test, and some interesting results here. In performance mode, we're looking at a 9% lead for the PS5 version. 55.3 FPS plays 50.7 FPS. Not exactly a gaping chasm, right? Alan Wake 2 isn't available on Steam, of course. I got it running by using the Heroic Launcher installed in Steam Machine's desktop mode. Yes, it is a Steam Machine, but we've got to remember that it's not just a console-like experience. Under the hood there, it is a full PC with full desktop access. We can also do like-for-like testing in Crimson Desert based on performance mode, and the GPU performance differential is more like 17% here in favour of the PS5, and that makes sense to me, bearing in mind how often we saw this number when comparing the Steam Machine to RX 7600, and yes, the 7600 does have broadly similar GPU performance to PlayStation 5.
So that's pretty wild that we could actually get better performance out of a device that was launched in 2020 versus a device that's launched in 2026. Now, I do understand that the Steam Machine is a PC. There's also more utility there, but for most people, the Steam Machine is really supposed to be a console-like experience for players and gamers, and that's really what their audience is for. And for $1,050, it's expensive for the performance that we're actually getting. Because, for a PlayStation, well, you can get a refurbished one for $550 if you wish, which is basically half the cost. Or you can get a refurbished digital for less than half. Or you can get a brand new one for like $650. It's the same, too, with if you want to be able to play just the AAA games, not great experience, but be able to play them, you can still get a Series S for $400 and a 1 terabyte for $450. There's also the Switch 2 for $450 on September 1st for everybody else. It's going to go up to $500. But yeah, DLSS upscaler works really good with Switch 2, which is kind of insane. Also with the Steam Deck, also with Xbox, it's the same deal. You can get $500 refurbished for a digital 1 terabyte Series X, or $600 for a new one, or $650 again with a disk drive. And then the refurbished ones for the disk drive, well, they're all out of stock. The other thing too, if we're talking about portable options or like handheld options versus the Steam Deck, well, the Steam Deck we got to see the high price now of like I think it's $780 or $789, and also $1,000 for the nicer one. But yeah, you can get a PlayStation Portal, which is now remote, for $250. That's incredibly cheap. Again, to play exclusives, have access to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games digitally, which is really, really good. There's also the ROG Ally, which at least here it is out of stock, but it's still available, I think, on Amazon. But you can get this too for $600 instead of the almost $800 or $1,000 that you're getting for the Steam Deck. And my conclusion here is that the Steam hardware is not competitive. It's not competitive. It's too much for the performance that you're getting. And while there are some other nice things about the Steam machine, most people are not going to care. Now, I don't think, too, that they've also probably made very many of these. I would guess probably under 10 million for like the entire world. Because, again, they've had a hard time actually getting their parts. They started sourcing them roughly in 2023. We're in 2026 now. And so, yeah, I mean, the parts have been very, very expensive, and they've also had to raise the price a lot higher than they were expecting at $1,050. I understand people want an alternative for Windows, and yes, there should be competition against Windows, and I think Steam Machine is a wonderful thing. I think making their own OS is a wonderful idea, and they're continuing to improve it. But Steam OS doesn't play all Steam games, but Windows does. Still. Proton Layer helps add some more games, but still it doesn't play everything. The other thing is that, without Windows, Steam doesn't exist. Still 97% roughly of the players, or 95 somewhere in there of the player base, is still on Windows, and they ultimately get to play everything, and all of the games that are made are really built for Windows in the first place. So whether we're talking about the hardware itself or whether we're talking about Steam OS, they are an option. Even Valve has said that themselves. It's an option. It's available. And again, I understand people actually wanting to just have an option that's outside of Windows that has some better utility. But again, it's kind of like the options for phones, right? There's a lot of people that gravitate toward a type of phone versus toward the Apple stuff. And there's a reason for that. And part of that is also with cost. It's an option, but most people aren't going to buy it. If you're excited for it, that's great. That's wonderful. But again, you probably already have a PC, and are you going to spend an extra $1,000 to have a secondary device? Probably not. It's a lot of money. And is this also going to get cheaper with time? No. Ashish Sharma said that even by holiday of 2027, they're expecting over 5 times the cost for storage. And that's just storage. That doesn't include RAM or anything else. And the previous video that I did too with costs for components is that, yeah, RAM, at least the better stuff, the mid to good stuff for RAM, is also just continuing to go up in price a little bit. It has stabilized, but the demand is still there and the price isn't coming down unless it's the really trashy stuff that nobody wants. Because again, nobody wants it because it's trash. So anyway, leave your comments. That's okay. If you enjoyed the video and help it stay in the algorithm so others can see it, I appreciate that. But yeah, what are you guys going to do? Most people, I think, are going to skip on this. I think most people are seeing this for what it is. But yeah, the people that are just glazing over the Steam machine because it's Steam. If it wasn't Steam, nobody would be interested in this because it'd be too much. And I mean, that's just the reality of what it is. So with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.